Hey everybody, good morning. It is Saturday, April the 10th, 2021, and at 8:30 in the morning my time. I'm in Alabama on Central Time, and some of you guys are watching live, some will watch this on replay. But just wanted to welcome you to the show, and just give me a thumbs up if somebody let me know that the sound and audio and sounds same thing, but the video is coming through loud and clear so that everybody can hear me. I got somebody. First comment here is elbow cough. Yeah, good good manners there. But anyway, I thought I would come on here on a Saturday morning and let's talk lawn care because it's springtime, the weather's warming, and it's like the lawn mowing companies have come out of hibernation from the winter, and they're out and they're mowing grass. Even up further north, the weather's warming up. I know those cool season grasses just really take off in the springtime. And of course, in the south, our grass is coming out of dormancy, transitioning, and starting to turn green. I've got some centipede at one property, and it's basically fully green. I've got some Zoysla Bermuda is getting there, a little bit slower. So anyway, so I just wanted to take your questions. Anything you can talk about weed control, we can talk about fertilizer, we can talk about running a lawn care business, talk about mowing lawns, lawn equipment, whatever you want to talk about. That's what we're going to do here today. So let me start by saying this. I was talking to some people the other day, and I realized that from a lawn care perspective, at least in my area, there's really not much downtime from from the cool season weeds I deal with. Like, so we have a lot of poa annua in our area. So the winter, I'm spraying a fall pre-emergent, trying to keep the poa out and the other cool season weeds, and then you got onions and you got grassy weeds that are kind of in our warm season grass. I'm trying to knock those grassy weeds out, and then you think finally the poa is starting to go away. The hot weather's getting rid of them. Hopefully you're going to prevent most of it with your pre-emergent. You think, well, maybe the poa is going away finally. I don't have to deal with it anymore. Like right now in our area, the poa is like full maturity, just big, but the grass is turning green. People are starting to mow. So it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. So at this point, I don't really spot treat it anymore. But I tell you, it was just like a week or two. I was thinking maybe I have a few weeks off, or I have to worry about many weeds. And I'm already seeing nutsedge. I'm already seeing Virginia buttonweed. These warm season weeds are already showing up. So there really isn't even a gap. The poa is still there, and the nutsedge is already showing up and dealing with that. So that's fine. People say they can hear me loud and clear. I appreciate that. A few things going on in my world. Like I said, I've started fertilizing lawns now instead of doing all the spraying. I kind of finished up my spraying except for new customers. I get a lot of new customers this time of year, and so I'm still spraying those. But I've started, started mowing my own grass, trying to scalp my yard down as low as possible. My Bermuda lawn, I'm trying to fill it in over the past 2 years. I've plugged it and documented that on YouTube, but I'm really trying to keep it at 1.5 inches best I can. So I'm mowing it super low. It turned it green, but then we got a late frost about a week or two ago. It turned my whole yard yellow, or just about a whole yard. But it's coming. It'll bounce back from that. And I'm going to see if I can keep it at 1.5 inches this year. I may have to mow it fairly often and may have to use a little growth regulator to help with that. So anyway, anybody have any questions, any things you want to talk about from a weed control, from a lawn mowing perspective, from a business perspective? I'm going to be on here for a while and taking your questions. I'm out on the back deck today, screened in situation, and we got a little bit of rain in there. So if it thunders real loud, that's what that's all about. In other news, I got a Toro lawnmower about a week ago and tried it out for the first time. I'm really excited about that. It's the Toro HDX 2000. It's got USB ports. It's got LED lights. It's pretty cool. And I did cut my yard with it last time. Again, dropping it down to 1.5 inches. That's as low as it will go. So All right. Got a question. Appreciate it. Did St. Augustine survive the winter? Yes, it did. And even like I said, we got down to about 28 last week, I believe it was, or maybe 30. But like my Bermuda, like that's one of the risks you run when you scalp your Bermuda yard early. You get all that new tender growth starts popping up, and that's what I did on mine. And then we got that late frost, and boom, it just turned it yellow. But my St. Augustine did fine. I think some reasons because I just put it in areas underneath big trees, and so some of it was kind of covered with leaves and stuff. I mean, I don't think 28 is not going to kill it. I mean, but yeah, it did fine, and I'll be curious to see this year how fast it spreads because, like I said, I just kind of put it in some areas where I knew the Bermuda wouldn't grow, and I want to keep it separate that way, and it just gives me something to look. I just kind of like messing with different grass types. Now I don't have centipede on my property, but I do have St. Augustine. I do have a little bit of Zoysla, which I love, and then mostly Bermuda. So, all right, you still liking the Toro? This is my friend Scott. I only used it one time, but I really like it. I like the My Ride systems, what they call it, the seat, the whole suspension kind of deal. I didn't make any adjustments to it. I just left it like it was. But yeah, it definitely makes a difference. Just feeling comfortable. Because I love them. I got that X-Mark stars that you stand on. That was new for me last year, just getting used to standing up on a lawnmower. But I like standards too, but I like sitting there. I don't know that I have a big preference on them, but yeah, definitely love the suspension seat on the Toro. Of course, it cut grace right out, brand new, had 0 hours on it. So it cut really great. All right, if I'm changing my lawn from carpet grass to Bermuda, I'll go ahead and say, Kyle, that's a great move. We don't consider carpet grass really a turf grass. I mean, what's the optimal plan? Should some Bermuda scatter around? Should I go scorched earth or bit by bit tips? North Louisiana. All right, Kyle. Carpet grass is not difficult to get rid of. You need to buy you a bottle of Celsius, okay? And it's like $100 or something. Mix it up. Just use the middle rate or even the high rate if you want to, and mix it up and spray your carpet grass, and it will die. Okay. I mean, the first application is going to just pretty much knock it out, but yeah, and I would go ahead and do, if you've got Bermuda grass, kind of spread out in there, then I would just go ahead and do it. Yeah, it's going to be a little thin, for a little while, but the Bermuda is going to start spreading. And when you get into June, July, I'd go ahead and start putting some fertilizer to it in May. When you get to June, July, if you'll aggressively fertilize it, or do like I do, you get that slow release fertilizer. And I'm telling you, the Bermuda spreads so fast. I'm documenting. You can look at my video. I'm putting up the next one this week, but it's my neighbor's lawn had every weed in the book and very little Bermuda. And I killed the weeds, and now I am fertilizing. I just put the first fertilizer application on it, and you're going to see, Lord willing, and the weather, it rains and stuff, how fast that Bermuda fills in. And you don't need a lot of Bermuda. Now, if you want to wait till it gets hot, don't put seed out now. But if it gets 85 degrees or something in June, and you want to put some hybrid Bermuda out, because you may just have some old common Bermuda that doesn't look quite as nice, you can go buy some hybrid Bermuda, or even buy the sod, and just plug it like I did, and watch it spread. But I would, if you're going to do that route, the plugs or sod, I would go ahead and do that now. Let it get rooted so that June, July, August, you can really see it spread. All right. Are you from Texas? No, I'm not. I'm from Alabama. I live near Birmingham, Alabama. Let's see. I have a lawn with a mix of warm season grass and cool season grass. They don't want me to kill off one or the other. You cut high or low to get the best uniform look. Aaron, can you clarify on which warm season grass you have? So St. Augustine, we cut it high, and that would kind of fit with. But I'm thinking if you've got cool season grasses, you probably don't have St. Augustine, because St. Augustine likes to be a little further south where cool season grasses don't grow. But we cut those high. You let those get 4 inches or so. But the other grass types, the centipede, I mean, Bermuda's adaptable. They're all adaptable, but I like to keep the centipede, Bermuda, and Zoysias all fairly low. 1 to 2 inches. Now you can cut them higher, um, but if you cut low, you're going to stress out that centipede. I mean, your cool season grasses. So yeah, most likely you're going to have to cut a little high to keep from stressing your cool season out. Too much. All right, Zoysia is greater than Bermuda. Well, you know, yes and no. I like the look. I tell people my best yards are Zoysia. I mean, they just are. I've got Zoysia in a little area. I've got some big crepe myrtles, and the Bermuda wasn't going to grow, so I put Zorro Zoysia on my yard, which I just a couple pallets, and I love it. I mean, it looks great, and it's supposedly the #1 rated Zoysia grass according to the National Turf Grass Evaluation, whatever, NTEP program. So, but yeah, Zoysia definitely has some advantages. It chokes out the weeds better. I'm doing there would be a video up this week talking about the things I like about Zoysia grass, the pros and cons of it. Okay, so the negatives are it doesn't spread as fast. It doesn't. It's not as drought tolerant. Okay, so for me, I was trying to cover 3 acres of yard over the past year or two. And so I just put Bermuda out there because it will spread extremely fast. And I can do my whole yard for $1,000. If I was doing that with Zoysia, it'd take 10 years. I mean, it'd take forever to spread. But yeah, as far as just the aesthetics of it, I like it better. But there are some advantages Bermuda too. You can just about drop a bomb on Bermuda and it won't hardly die. So, but Zoysia is a great grass. Should we be concerned with any herbicides and pets? Well, I mean, you're going to want to, one, use common sense, okay? When you spray a yard, if you keep humans and pets off there, is great. But as with anything, the label is the law. You want to read the label, and it should list out the precautions on there. So, check out the label before you read it. Zoysia is good for shady areas, correct? Yeah. I mean, if for us in the South, we people sometimes watch you on YouTube and they're like, hey, why don't you just go put some seed out over there? And we just don't do that much. Okay. Our grass is like the 419 Bermuda won't even grow from seed. It's a hybrid Bermuda and the seed is sterile. I mean, it's a science lab grass. You know what I'm saying? It's now you can get hybrid Bermudas that'll grow from seed and you can grow Zoysia from seed, but I don't know if I've ever met anybody who ever has done that. And I know it's been done. I'm just saying we usually just use sod. And as far as shaded areas, Zoysia, and again, we throw the term out there, it's shade tolerant, and that's what they mean by the term. It's tolerant of shade. It doesn't mean it likes shade, but it tolerates it. And like I said, that Zorro Zoysia supposedly will handle 3 to 4 hours and still grow. And I've got an area around my crepe myrtle. So on the front side of the crepe myrtles, it gets more sun. The back side, it gets not as much sun. And the front side's greener and looks better than the back side. But the back side's still hanging in there. So, and St. Augustine also tolerates shade. But I almost always, when I see a Bermuda yard and it's got shade or, underneath trees or something, the Bermuda's starting to get thin, I say, if you want grass to grow there, you need to put some Zoysia there. That's going to help that do a lot better. All right, here we go. Row tide. We actually say roll tide, but I get your point. And roll tide to you. All right, woot woot. And is it better to do a split application for pre-emergent in the spring? Well, that's what I do. Let me talk to you about pros and cons. So I do a split application. In the spring, or it's really before spring. I mean, I start like January the 2nd, putting out pre-emergent for my customers. And here's the thought behind that. You do the first application. I'm using Prodiamine because that's a great product for crabgrass. And then I'm putting a post-emergent in there with it, like a atrazine and a product called Triplet. It's going to help get rid of those cool season weeds. And then the Prodiamine. So I do a split application on my first treatment, which I try to do from January the 2nd through the middle of February. And then I start my second application middle of February through the end of March. Okay, well, let's just say I don't get to that second application for that particular customer till the end of March. Well, oftentimes in our area, the crabgrass is already germinated. I mean, most of the time it's already germinated. So even when I'm doing a split pre-emergent, I'm putting more of the prodiamine in round one because that's the one I'm really counting on to keep the crabgrass out. Okay, because by the time I get back to round two, the crabgrass may have already germinated. But you put more pre-emergent out. It kind of is the idea is kind of like a booster shot to help that pre-emergent stay in the soil longer, to help other weeds that are going to be continuing to germinate. And then you're back again on that second time. You're mixing your three-way product in there, triplet, and that's helping with other weeds that may have germinated. You know, you may have burnweed. American burnweed is a very common weed in the springtime, and so it gives you a chance to get out there and spray and hopefully be able to knock out some of that burnweed or other weeds. So, you know, in the fall, you can do a split application then as well, but I'm doing it just in one shot in the fall and using spectacle flow most of the time. And that's, you know, getting a lot of spectacle in there to help with the POA annua. So, all right, Bermuda. I have to expand on that question there. What's the most economic slow release granular fertilizer with no phosphates? I don't know. Like I said, I buy my products from Harold's, and that they use the Polyon fertilizer, which is you know, a polymer coated deal. And the whole idea of the slow release fertilizer is it breaks down over time. So like literally, if you had just straight slow release fertilizer with this polymer coating on it, you could put it out there in January, and it's just going to sit there. And then when the weather starts getting hot and the rain stuff, it's going to begin breaking down and feeding the lawn at a rate that the grass can actually use the nutrients. Where if you use a quick release fertilizer, oftentimes a lot of the nutrients gets wasted. Is it going to make your grass green? Well, yeah, it does, but you know, it's putting way more nutrients into the grass oftentimes than can be taken in, so a lot of it gets wasted. So, but as far as your question, I'm sorry I don't have an answer for your exact question, but I love slow release fertilizer and the whole concept of it. Real mow St. Augustine 2.5 inches. I don't have a real mower. 2.5 inch. I think I'm gonna let mine go a little longer than that, honestly, but we'll see. I'm seeing the El Toro. Now I haven't used El Toro, but I have heard of it. You know, we see a lot of Z52 and Emerald Zoysia in our area. And like I said, I've got the Zorro Zoysia. I've got a customer that's got that Xeon Zoysia. I really like it. It's a little bit wider blade one. I don't think it's probably not as shade tolerant as the real fine blade ones like I've got, but you can actually cut it super short, like I think a 1/2 inch, you know, and my customer he's got it top dress and he keeps it mowed really short and it looks awesome. All right, I used 2,4-D with surfactant at the bottle rate and had very little impact on broadleaf weeds. Any tips? That doesn't make sense to me because I mean, I get your question. I would just you know, want to know at the bottle rate, like where had you calibrated yourself. I mean, you know, like I say, and I don't know if you're a homeowner in business or whatever, but so like I got a big spray tank on the back of my truck, and I put the water in there. Let's just say I fill it up with just straight water, and I go out there and spray straight water on my a yard that's 10,000 square feet. And if I look and I use 20 gallons, then I'm spraying 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet, and I can mix the product accordingly. Now, sometimes when you're just using a backpack sprayer or handheld sprayer, you need to sort of calibrate yourself in that situation as well. I mean, not sort of, but you know, measure out 1,000 square feet, you know, and then go spray it and see how many gallons you actually used, because you may be spraying less. You know, you mixed it in the bottle, but when you actually got there and started spraying, you may not have been using near as much as you thought you were. But 2,4-D will definitely knock out some broadleaf weeds. So I'm not sure, but hopefully those tips helped you out, Josh. Is the performance of spectacle flow far superior to prodiamine to justify its price? You know, I'm gonna say for me, I'm using spectacle flow in the fall. So, you know, everybody's going to have to make their own decision on that, in my opinion, because, if you're like me and you're running a business, if you're not making any money, then no, it's not worth it. But I thought about it like this, and I'm still thinking about it. I'm always tossing these ideas around, like even going around spot treating weeds. Let's just say Tribute Total is a product that is on the higher price tag than other products I could use to spot treat. But and I'm not saying I do this, I'm just tossing this around in my head. If I could walk around the yard one time and hit every single weed on my Bermuda and Zoysla yards just with Tribute Total and not have to make a second trip around, then if the time to me is the biggest expense in your business, even if you're working solo, I still think it is. If I had more time, so if I say, well, I could have saved 30 cents on that yard if I would have used this product, spot treating versus this product. Yeah, but if I had to walk that yard a second time, once for broadleaf weeds and then a second time for sedges or whatever, that's why oftentimes we mix a broadleaf product with a sedge product, like Celsius and Certainty, or like Change Up and Pro Sedge, mix them together. Because if I had to walk that yard twice, is that worth 30 cents? Yeah, it's worth 30. It's worth several dollars. I mean, maybe even tens of dollars. So don't re-walk a yard. And so that the whole idea with the spectacle, if that's going to keep the POA out, and I don't have to turn around and be walking that yard spraying POA with a product like Revolver or something like that, which is also cost money and costs a significant amount of money. It's the time plus the post-emergent you're going to have to do, plus just your business reputation. I just want it to look great. So yeah, I mean, spectacle is definitely significantly more expensive than prodiamine, but I look at it, on a 5,000 square foot lawn, which is a fairly small lawn. I mean, like, what did it cost me? $2, more to use spectacle. So it's not crazy, the cost, and I would rather go up on a customer $2 than and use the superior product. Now, in the springtime or in your round 1 and 2, like, you use prodiamine because prodiamine is awesome for crabgrass. So why use a more expensive product if the cheaper product gets outstanding results? To me, there's no reason to use it. Now, I'll say this: I did use some spectacle this past week. I had some yards that had doveweed, and with the situation with them having doveweed last year, I talked to a couple people, and they encouraged me to use spectacle late, like in April, early April, because the doveweed germinates way later than crabgrass, or significantly later. So I did that. I put 6 ounces per acre of spectacle out on about 4 yards this week. Actually, I did 3. I got 1 more to do. And I'll see how well it did on preventing the doveweed. Those are special situations. If you apply a post-emergent and get very low results, try fertilizing the lawn first. Huh. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe. I don't know. If you spray the right product on the right weed and you don't get results, that confuses me, because usually it's the wrong product or the wrong rate. I'm trying to grow Scott Zoysia from seed now in full sun. I would wait till it gets hot. Okay, I'd wait till it gets like 85 degrees and water like crazy. It may be a little bit of cool weather right now. I don't know where you live, Ethan, but I would probably wait a little bit if it were me. What do you think of laying down now 10-10-10 fertilizer for Bermuda and North Carolina? I mean, and I'm no fertilizer expert, just to be honest with you, but your Bermuda probably is is just now getting going. Okay, so sometimes there's a race to see who can make their yard greenest earliest in the spring, and get a few customers like, I want my yard green, and I'm like, listen, the weather has a lot to do with that. So if your grass is like barely turning green, and we get some cool nights coming up, like our forecast is not really that warm over the next couple of weeks, then the fertilizer is not going to do great. So I'll tell you what I'm using is a 20-3-5 right now. And then I'll come back in May or June. I use a 38-0-6. So yeah, I mean, is that going to give us some color? Yeah, probably. But if it's cold, you're not going to get great results. And if I do think mowing it and go ahead and getting that dormant layer of grass off there and letting the sunlight get down the roots is going to have a big effect as well. In the Tupelo area, Ethan, yeah, you're definitely going to be too cold to be growing zoysia right now. I would wait. I'd probably wait till at least May. Wait till it gets 85 degrees, so you don't waste your money, and then water it like crazy. And again, I've never tried growing zoysia from seed, but I hope it does work for you. What cultivar of zoysia? Yeah, I'd be interested to know that as well. All right. Well, Kentucky bluegrass grow in our area. So this is my friend Scott. He lives close to me. He wants to try to stripe his yard. Only if it's probably only if it's really shady, to be honest with you. It's not going to grow if it just won't take the heat. I mean, if it doesn't even take the heat well up further north. I mean, I had those guys, they're mowing grass like crazy in the spring. You've seen the overseeded yards with ryegrass and the grass. I mean, it's crazy how fast. I believe you can literally mow it every other day. But then in the summer, it gets hot, it gets dry, and it does not like that, especially in Alabama. So, if you got a real shady area, you could try some, fescue ryegrass kind of deal and try it. But I'm not optimistic. Let's see. So you're saying it's not a good idea to start Bermuda grass from seed. We live in the foothills. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that necessarily. I really thought through this last year. I was thinking about my own yard, trying to cover acres and acres, and I was like, should I seed it? Should I sod it? Should I plug it? And I ended up plugging it because I wanted the 419 Bermuda that's real common in our area. But I wouldn't just get common Bermuda seed. I mean, I have common Bermuda; it just grows out all over the place. It just doesn't look as good. I mean, it's a wider leaf. It can look okay. It's just not going to have the same look. So even if I was going to do seed, I would get one of those Pennington hybrid Bermudas. Like there's a Princess 77. I forget the other ones, but get one of those. It's gonna have a better look to it. And they're kind of expensive. So for me, I just thought I'm just going to plug mine, and if I can, and I wasn't in a big hurry. Now, seeding it, the other issue I had with several acres, I didn't think I could keep it watered, until it germinated. So, I wouldn't do it till it gets hot. And then you got to think, can I keep this watered for the first 2 weeks until it germinates and starts growing and survives? So that's the problem. You wait till it's hot, but if you do sod, you can throw it out there now. It's great, and just let it kind of struggle and get rooted. I mean, you still water a little bit, and then it'll take root pretty quickly in good situations, and then it'll really take off when the weather is hot. Problem I've had the last couple of years, I've tried to put the sod out or the plugs out when it was hot, not because I wanted to, just circumstances caused that, like July and August. So it was like throwing it out there in an oven, trying to get it survive. Now it survived barely. So this is the first year where I've got the grass that's already there. Okay, it's going to be established before the hot weather. Now I'm tilling up my yard and leveling out and all this other stuff. So I think this year it's just going to take off. So yeah, you could do seed. Just there's pros and cons of different methods here. All right, I had some success with transplanting centipede plugs in bare spots. When's the best time to do this? I would say, you could probably go ahead and do it if the freezing weather is gone out of your area. Just go and do it. I got one of those pro pluggers. You can look them up on Amazon. They're a pretty cool little deal. It looks like it's like something a golf course would use almost to cut a new hole in their putting green. You just step on it and it'll, fill up about 10 plugs, and it works great. And then you go step on it and you plug. So I've plugged Bermuda grass that way and zoysia grass. So you may can use that. Again, summertime is great for growing these warm season grasses. It's just hard to keep it watered if you put a new plug out in the summer. If you do it now, it's not going to really like take off or anything, but it can go ahead and take a month to get established. And then when the summer gets here, it can, have a better chance of surviving because it's already had a month or two to get settled. Do you recommend the X-Mark stars? I like mine a lot. That's the first and only zero turn, stander I've ever had. So I've only ever been on, I think I've been on a right stander one time. I don't have a lot of experience with the other ones, just to be honest with you. But I like the idea of stander mower. I think the stars holds on hills pretty well for a stander. you know, that mine's a 60-inch. I'm out there mowing. My yard's fairly flat, but I do have one slope that I tested on as far as how well to hold on a hill. But, you know, I don't have any complaints about it. Like I said, I don't have anything to compare it to as far as other standards, but I've had a good experience with mine. All right, Comfort Lawn Care just applied my first bag of Harold's 3235. And tell me again where you're from, Comfort Lawn Care. Are you in Georgia, or I can't remember? Like I said, I'm using a 20-3, so very, very similar to what you're doing. Can Spencer Lawn Care come on with you, please? He was on here this past Monday night, actually. So you can go back and find that on the channel. Just click on my channel and go to the live section, and you'll. Spencer and I had a good time and enjoyed spending some time with him. All right. It says he likes my videos and Pro Plugger works great. Absolutely. How old are you? I'm old and I got my driver's license already. When do I get an LLC? Well, I mean, I'm no lawyer or accountant, but just some, encourage you to consult one of them. The idea of LLC versus sole proprietorship is like kind of making you separate from your business. So if you were to get sued, okay, hopefully they're suing your business and not coming after you personally. Where if you're a sole proprietor, the way I understand it, you're kind of one with your business. So, I would go ahead and do it if you're going to be in the lawn business. To me, it makes sense. I'm an LLC. And I'm separate from my business. So, again, if I get sued, the lawyers will have to work that out. Who knows what they're going to take, what they're not going to take. But the idea is you're protecting yourself from your personal assets from your business and creating two separate entities. Thanks for doing this. No problem. You know what? Sometimes YouTube is fun. Sometimes it's not as fun. I kind of like the live Q&A kind of deals. So appreciate you guys asking questions. That helps it flow a little better. Brian G. I honestly haven't found that out. I've tried looking it up, but haven't found anything. I'm sorry, I don't remember the question for that one. Got rained out today. Good thing I didn't spray yesterday. How do you think how do you say it? Chapping or chaping? I'm sorry, I don't know. Sure beats pumping. I don't know. Is that I'm assuming that's their battery powered backpack. I don't have that one. I do have a Milwaukee battery powered backpack, and I do like the and there's battery powered handhelds too, like little 2-gallons. So I haven't used that one, but I do like the battery powered system now. And it's what's crazy about them things is the batteries. It must not take much power at all to make water spray out of. Because they last, I mean, my Milwaukee, I think it was spray for 2 weeks. I mean, like me just out spot trading, I tested it. That battery lasts so long, which they make good products and have good, good batteries. Ringgold, Georgia. Okay. I don't know where in Georgia that is, but you're in Georgia. So yeah, I mean, again, don't get too disappointed if your Bermuda yards, you put that fertilizer on, don't turn super green. It's going to have a lot to do with the weather. If we get up in the 80s and you put it out, boom, it's probably going to pop. But especially if they mowed the lawn. Now you get somebody that's got 4 inches of dormant grass, it's basically insulating the roots. I mean, it's hard to make that stuff green. So you got to mow the grass, get some warmer weather, put the fertilizer out, water in. It definitely should make it a lot greener. Terry, good to hear from you. If you could have any tank set up on a trunk, what would you have? Well, I'd probably have something about like I got, just to be honest with you. I've got a 400-gallon split tank. So mine's 300 gallons on one side, 100 on the other. Now, again, it's going to depend on what you're trying to do. I mean, if I was going to add anything to it, I might have a 100-gallon little separate tank that I could use for different purposes. I don't really do a lot of tree and shrub spraying, but if I had that 100-gallon tank, I might have that mixed up just for my ride-on spreader sprayer, even if it was a 50-gallon tank, and I could keep that at a real concentrated mix for my ride-on spreader sprayer. But having that split tank is awesome because the 300-gallon, I'm spraying around 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet. What that allows me to do, I can go out there and spray my Bermuda and Zoysla lawns, which is primarily what I have, mostly Bermuda, some Zoysla. And that's probably 90% of my customers, Bermuda Zoysla. I mix that up. I could most of the time spray out of just that 300-gallon side, and it'll get me through a day. So 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet, I can do 150,000 square feet. So that's pretty good. I mean, that's if I had 10,000 square foot yards, I could do 15 of those. That's a pretty big yard. If I had 5,000 square foot yards, I can do 30 of them just off the 300-gallon side. I mean, that's a full day. And I can use the 100-gallon side for something else. Maybe my centipede St. Augustine yards, or maybe I've got that side mixed up for my ride-on spreader sprayer. And what I do, you put a little bit of blue dye in the small side, not because I want to paint somebody's yard blue. I don't put enough to make it blue. I put just a little bit where it tempts it enough so when I want to switch from one tank to the other, it's got some valves on there. I get my tanks from Graham Spray Equipment. They're a sponsor on the channel. Appreciate them guys. But I was using them from day one in my lawn business before they sponsored me. I'll just go ahead and say that. But you flip the valves over on the tank and you spray it back into the tank you were spraying from. And then when it turns blue, or slightly different color tint, now I know I'm spraying out of the small side. So if I got two different products in there, and I say I want to go back to the big side, well, then I flip the valves back, I spray it back in the small tank, and when it turns back yellow or whatever color it is, now I know I'm back to the chemical number one. So that's how it works. I do like the flatbed trucks too. I mean, it's just easy to work off flatbed truck. What post-emergent herbicides would you recommend having a homeowner's arsenal for tall fescue? I'm not as experienced, to be honest with, the cool season grasses, but I know there's some products like that I use. I'm pretty sure are labeled for cool season grass, like Change Up. We use we use Celsius Certainty a lot. I don't think you guys can use those. They probably smoke your grass there, but people use Tenacity a lot. I'm sorry, I don't have the experience on those grass types, but what I want to do is on this channel, get somebody on here one day that's a cool season expert and let them we'll just talk about cool season grasses for the most part. But Change Up is a great product, and I use it a lot of times, and I'm pretty sure it is labeled. And then you want to mix it with a sedge product, something like Pro Sedge or something like that. I'm pretty sure that would be labeled for cool season grasses as well. Check the label though. All right. How did you start getting properties to mow? Well, I'm not mowing right now, but just getting customers in general is one of the best things you can do in today's society. I mean, the long-term approach is get a website and start ranking on Google and all that. And that works great, and I get tons of customers like that. But that's not a fast approach, but you can start being real active in your social media. Like go ahead and get Instagram, get up Facebook, start a YouTube, whatever. And be active in the local Facebook groups. I even get on there and search within a local group, like a group from my city, group from my neighborhood, whatever. I search for the keyword lawn, and I see somebody says, "Oh, hey, I'm looking for somebody to mow my lawn. I'm looking for somebody to spray my lawn." Well, you may have saw it too late, but you can go ahead and put your name in the comments. Say, "Hey, I'd love to get in touch with you." Go ahead and send them a private message and say, "Hey, I know I'm late, but if it doesn't work out with the person you found, please give me a call." And then the other thing you can do that I think is real important is you start calling on the people that can send you business. So like I said, me doing weed control and fertilization, I'm searching the Facebook group, finding all the lawn mowing companies. I call them directly and introduce myself, say, "Hey, I do weed control and fertilization. If you don't have anybody you're sending your customers to, I'd love for you to send them to me." And if you're mowing, you might call on the weed control guys and say, "Hey, listen, I know you're going to get asked for about mowing lawns. Maybe if you don't have somebody, could you send me some of the lawn mowing customers?" So I have a lot of mowing guys that send me business, and in turn, I send them business as well. All right. Florida makes you work for someone 3 years before you can take the applicator exam. I've heard that. No, Alabama doesn't do that. We have to take a test and do continuing education. But yeah, I've heard Florida and Mississippi are both tough, and I'm sure there's other states a lot more requirements to get licensed. Ordered you a hat. What are you talking about? One of them big, cool, floppy ones like I've got with the neck flap? That thing's like my own personal shade tree. I said it's worth 10 degrees on a hot summer day. I love that thing, but I'm not sure if that's the hat you're talking about. Do I need a license to fertilize lawns if it's just me working for my company? Now, check with your Department of Agriculture, but I don't think if you're just putting fertilizer out, I don't think you do. But if you're spraying anything, and I don't know anybody really that wants their yard fertilizer not sprayed, I'm sure there's somebody out there. But if you're just fertilizing, you probably don't. Again, check with your local authorities. But if you're spraying anything, even including Roundup in a flower bed, you're supposed to have your license. Can I mix atrazine and Celsius together and spray centipede? Yeah, pretty sure you can. I mean, you can check the labels and make sure it doesn't say that it's not a good combination to mix. But I would say this, Wesley. Wait till it's fully green, or do it when it's still dormant. So I'm spraying atrazine in January and February on my centipede yards, and then I don't really spray them much at all during March and April when they're transitioning. If you spray Celsius on it, you're probably going to delay the green up. So you can probably spray atrazine then if you wanted to. Again, I'm using like 20 ounces per acre. I spray it round one, round two. I don't really spray anything. I'm putting some nutritional stuff on it. And then once it turns green, which it's green in my area, but it just got green. I mean, like last week or two, it's green. So I would be okay going in there spraying it now. I use change up a lot. Centipede tolerates change up at a low rate. I mean, spot treating is like an ounce per gallon of water. But with a machine, I might just put 10 ounces per acre in there and spray it. It's a real low rate, but it's great for like spurs and Lespedeza and stuff like that. But yeah, I just say wait till it's green. All right. What have you found to be most effective against clover that will not hurt my centipede grass? Yeah, wait till it's green again. I mean, you can use atrazine if it's kind of in transition. But I did a video on killing clover. But I mean, there's change up is a great product for centipede grass. So change up or metsulfuron is really cheap. MSM turf, the active ingredient is metsulfuron. Also is really great. Well, MSM herbicide kills St. Augustine. No, you can definitely use that. Now I would just use it at a low rate. I mean, I guess anything would kill it if you use it too high of a rate. I mean, I'm using 1/4 of an ounce per acre. Okay, 1/4 of 1 ounce per an acre. Very small amount. It's hard to mix in a little backpack sprayer because it's such a small quantity. So you want to be careful with that. But no, and that will knock out some clover. It knocks out lots of weeds. Very reasonably priced, like 5 cents per 1,000 square feet. I mean, so you can spray a whole acre for about $2. It's really reasonable. Put a little bit of surfactant in there with it. All right, in Georgia and Atlanta area, struggling with soil compaction, tilled in a minute a few years back to square one with struggling centipede line. Well, yeah, centipede, it just has its own mind of its own. I'd say a couple things. One, that don't be spraying it during transition. Okay, you may even not use any pre-emergent at all during the early half of the year. You put your fall pre-emergent out and just don't use any pre-emergent. And spray it in January with atrazine, but just don't spray it. Just go for turf health, and then start fertilize it and put nutrients to it in May and see if it'll recover. But don't be bombarding it, worrying about the weeds, because when you spray those weeds, you might be setting it back, especially if it's already struggling. All right, what would be the best time to dethatch a yard? Well, I've been asking a lot about detaching yards. I've never dethatched a yard in my life, but if I was going to do it, it would be probably now, because you got all that stuff built up, and you can get rid of that. Now it will still, once you start mowing regular and it gets hotter, that the thatch begins to break down, provide some nutrients to the soil. But I understand sometimes, especially like these Zoysla lawns, it just gets so thick and so matted, and it does look bad. And so that I would just do it sooner than later. Thoughts on a battery operated lawn company? It's obviously the way equipment is now. I believe you could have a full-fledged battery operating lawn company, including a zero-turn mower and everything. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I know a lot of people are switching to just battery powered handheld equipment, even if they sticking with a gasoline mower. There's not I don't know of anybody in my area that's gone full battery. I haven't seen anybody using the battery operated zero turns, though I know they exist. I know there's people who use it. I'm just saying in my area, I haven't seen that. But no, I don't think it's bad opportunity at all, and I'm sure the batteries continue to improve. And so I'd be curious to know how long the batteries last near Chattanooga. So you're up there, you're probably, weather's still cool. So, anyway, if you can hold off on your fertilizer and wait till it warms up a little bit, I think you might see a little better results. But you can try and experiment and kind of note the yards you fertilize now. I'm talking to Comfort Lawn Care. To the fertilizer yard now and see how green it turns versus one that you wait 2 weeks and fertilize when the weather warms up. And you may see a difference. I'm not sure. It's going to wait till late May. All right. I forget the question. I'm sorry about that. Thanks for all your info. The real J Slim. No problem. Glad to help, and appreciate you guys asking some great questions. Thanks, Jason. Back to killing weeds I go. I hear you. That's what I do almost every day of my life. So it's not a bad job, though. I'll be honest. I like to try a growth regulator this summer, but the initial cost of liquid growth regulator is high. Yeah, I mean, it is high to buy a bottle. Like I'm using Podium is the one I'm using, and it's a great product. I mean, it works great. But when the bottle, I don't know what it costs, maybe $100 something or 200. I don't remember, but it goes a long way. So when you actually figure out the cost, like you're spending to actually spray your yard, it's not bad at all. It's just, yeah, the initial cost is a little bit much because you got to spend $200 or whatever it is to buy it. But when I think about my yard, I'm thinking if I could spray my yard, and I got if you had like a 5,000 square foot yard, I mean, it costs like $1 or something to spray it. But if you got 3 acres or something like I do, I'm like, if I want to keep it low and greatly reduce my mowing time, it's cheaper to ride over and spray it with that. And it gives me that look I'm going for without, having to mow it again. So, but the growth regulator is awesome, and I like to get some for shrubs too and try it. Now, if you have these Iliagnus shrubs, they just grow like crazy. I think I'd just spray growth regulator on them all the time. Yeah, the riding mowers with the battery definitely, but I hadn't tried them. I like trying them. I imagine they're great. I just hadn't used them. All right, when starting my company without an LLC or without contracts, how do I make sure customers pay me for my work? Jake's a good question. My area, I almost never get a residential customer to sign anything. I think it's more of a deterrent than it is helpful. Now, if you got a commercial contract or even residential, it wants you to be like a 12-month kind of deal, you may get them to sign something. But I mean, how great are you going to be able to enforce that on a residential property? So here's what I would say, as opposed to that, Jake, is strongly consider how you structure your payment schedule. Okay. Even to the point that you say, if that's a concern, and this is not a bad idea at all, even though you may lose a few customers, but you start off saying, hey, listen, the way we do our business, we have a credit card on file. So most of your softwares are going to let you have a credit card on file, your lawn care softwares. And you just charge them at the beginning of the month or at each time per cut. If it's $50 and you're cutting every week, you charge them, just charge it right there when you show up to mow it. You charge the card. If it goes through, boom, we cut your grass. And you have that agreement with the customer, so that you're never behind and you're never collected. Now, you may say, I don't know if I can do that. I want to start with that. So what you might do is not do that. Just start and bill them at least split the difference with them, bill them at the middle of the month. Let's say you want to bill monthly and it's going to be 4 cuts this month. So you bill them at the middle of the month and they have to the end of the month to get you paid kind of thing. Or I would encourage you, try to get the cards on file if you can, but you don't have to. I don't have a lot of cards on file. I just email my invoices at the time of service. But if you have a customer that's continually late, most people are not trying to cheat and steal from you. They're just late. Okay. If they're continually late, just don't, put that customer and just say, listen, I'm going to have it prepaid or a card on file before I continue to work with. So don't just get frustrated over these same customers that, keep having the same problems. just deal with that customer individually. But I found it's not many customers that are like that, and most of the time they're not stealing; they're just don't pay their bills on time. What weeds and grass killers do you recommend for flower beds and sidewalks? Okay, so I use SureGuard and glyphosate mixed together. It's great. It just works great. I actually doing a video in the process of doing a video testing out kind of a homeowner grade product. It's this what's it called? Ortho ground clear, something like that, and it worked really fast. But and you say, well, it's cheap for a little ball if you're just a homeowner. But yeah, the other stuff is more expensive. Like SureGuard is a lot more expensive to buy the bottle, but it's going to go way longer. So it's probably actually cheaper per application. It's just whether or not you're using for a business or not. But that combination of SureGuard and glyphosate, it works excellent. All right. Today's LawnCare says use Yardbook and bill in advance. Yeah, if you just are worried about that, and I'm telling you that's a headache trying to collect money from people, then I agree with this. Just if it's something that's going to cause you anxiety, it's not worth it. And even if I went to that route next year, and I'm not sure I won't at some point, if I lost 10% of my customers, but it solved my having to worry and text people, and I'm sorry I didn't get paid last time. Can you pay me this time? And all that stuff. Then it may be worth it. So yeah, I think that's a great tip. What's your process for Dallisgrass? All right, I got an opinion on this. Any selective herbicide combos you've tried, or just a non-selective or manual way? Yeah, I mean, so here's the deal. If you got Dallisgrass in a Bermuda lawn or Zoysla lawn, if you got any centipede, I mean, it's just going to be really, really hard. You can try Celsius and Certainty mixed together. And so what you want to do in all these strategies is start. Okay, so the cheating way that's not legal in a Bermuda yard is use MSMA. Okay, it works great when it's hot weather. Use it 3 or 4 times, but you can't use it on residential properties. All right, so let's talk about the legal ways. Start in October and spray it with either, if you're using a centipede yard, I'm saying just use Celsius and Certainty. And I'm not convinced that ain't one of your best options on all these other grasses too, like Zoysia or Bermuda. But Celsius and Certainty combination in October, and then come back again, do it in November. Now, I don't always make a special trip back to my yards to do that if it's a customer. I just spray it every time I'm there. I'm sprayed it. And in the summer, you have basically no hope. I wouldn't even waste your money unless you're just really using way more than what the label says. So starting in October, spray it again in November. And then when it goes dormant, like your Bermuda, this for Bermuda, then you start going with the glyphosate options and hammer it then as well. And I've found, sometimes people say just spray it right in the middle of the plant so you don't damage the grass. Well, sometimes if you spray it right in the middle of the plant, it'll kill right in the middle of the plant, but it won't kill the outer parts, and it comes back anyway. So I've found you basically need to get the whole leaf structure of the plant wet with the glyphosate option in the winter. But if you don't do that, and don't do that on Zoysia unless you're okay making a bald spot, because oftentimes it don't go fully dormant, at least in our area. And then come back as soon as it starts coming out of life the following spring. So March, spray it again with the Celsius and Certainty combo, or Tribute Total is the other one. Or there's a product called Manuscript you can use as well. But whichever of those you choose. And like I said, I'm not convinced. And if you use the Tribute Total, they say using the methylated seed oil is very important for doing that. So, the idea is twice in the fall, like October, November, and then I start hammering it with glyphosate in the winter. And then if it comes back from that, survives that, you see it survive in March or April, spray it again. And if you're okay with it being brown spot, you just got a little bit, then you could use even glyphosate in March or April. Again, you're going to make a brown spot because by then the grass is coming out of dormancy. But yeah, it's very tough to get rid of. It's not hard. I mean, not easy at all, and you got to spray it a bunch of times. All right. And when I'm spraying glyphosate, I use 32 ounces per acre. And when it's dormant, I hadn't seen much of the late green up at all. A third bent grass infested lawn with, he says, 3,400 square feet on the typo here. Of the fescue for overseeding. Plan to use tenacity as seeding. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm not. We don't oversee. I wouldn't be much help on that. I'm sorry. But you can probably do a Google search and figure out an overseeing rate. I forget the rates we've used down here. When I just put every once in a while, I get somebody wants ryegrass on their Bermuda yard to keep it green over the winter. All right. Let's see. What fungicide you recommend to prevent lawn disease? Um, Trying to think of some of the ones I've used in the past. And you can go liquid or granular. The granulars are usually expensive. Now, Fame is one that I've used. The idea here is you get one that's kind of like broad spectrum. It's going to help with a lot of different fungus and also last a lot longer. But my understanding of fungus, and I wouldn't claim to be an expert, but like I had a customer call me the other day. He sent me pictures. He's got fungus in his zoysia lawn. Well, the fungus, it shows up, in the spring. The grass is turning green, and you've got these big spots where you had large patch or whatever in the yard. Well, that most likely started back in the fall, like right when you start getting those cool fall nights is when that fungus starts. So you really need to put your fungicide out like before you get those cool nights in the fall. Kind of like about the same time you want to put your fall pre-emergent out. Well, the customer doesn't see it then, and they won't see it all winter because the grass is brown and where that fungus is brown. But then what happens in the spring? The grass starts turning green. The area with damaged by the fungus is brown. And oftentimes when you see it in the spring, if you'll look and you'll see, is there any kind of orangish, reddish color around the perimeter of the circle? If so, then it's probably still active and could be treated to help, keep it from spreading worse. But oftentimes it's not that. It's already done the damage and it just needs to recover. So putting a fungicide out at that point really not going to help a whole lot. So if you have an area that gets a fungus year after year, then you might want to start putting out that fungicide in the fall. And I say I know Fame is one that I have used. It's not the only one, definitely not the cheapest one, but I know it covers a lot of different types of fungus. All right. By the way, it's my first time seeing any tips would be great. Well, again, I'm not a cool season grass kind of person, but I know you just got to keep it watered and put out. I mean, honestly, if you seed it and it doesn't come up thick enough, just put some more out and just add to it. I mean, that's a great thing. I feel like people with the cool season grasses, like they screw the whole yard up and they throw some seed out and they fix it in 3 weeks. We just can't do that with Bermuda. Let's just resod or with our warm season grasses. But when I put it out in the fall, wait till it starts cooling off, look for the forecast and see when some rain's coming, throw it out. That stuff grows like crazy, So I don't think it's overly complicated, but I can't remember the rate. You sub out work. I need to sub out some mowing and wonder if you had any advice. I don't sub out anymore. I just give the mowing customers to people now. But I tell you, it's a little bit tricky. I would just say find somebody that you had a really good reputation and would like to work with. Now, honestly, I like to keep my customers separate from the mowing company. So, for instance, the mowing guys, some of them they say, "Hey, I'm mowing this property. I want you to do the spraying," and that's fine. If they want to do it that way, there's nothing wrong with that. They pay me to do the spraying, and they bill the customer. But oftentimes, I don't care at all if they just get me in touch with the customer and let the customer just be my customer for spraying and let them be their customer for mowing. Now, I understand that a lot of times the customer wants it to all be under one name and everything. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, you just got to find somebody reliable and work out a reasonable agreement for that. And it may be if you don't want to just sub it out and get an ongoing, you might just get like a one-time thing. It's like, hey, for every yard, I'm going to get you this much money. And if you give me a yard, I'll give you this much money, kind of thing. All right. Perfect info. Glad you guys are enjoying it. If you got any more questions, I'm happy to stay on here and keep answering some more questions. If you got more, you can talk about any lawn care topic you want. Talk about other stuff if you want to, but I may decline if it gets off topic too bad. Also, can you elaborate on any tips or pitfalls to avoid when starting in the first few years of a lawn spraying service? Okay, yeah, I'm sure I could do this. You know, to me, you gotta think through a few things. You gotta think like, what do you want your company to be long term? Are you wanting to stay solo and you just wanting to get 200-300 yards and and you can make a pretty good living doing that, or are you trying to grow something big? All right, depending on that, you want to decide how many how wide of an area you're going to go geographically, or am I going to drive an hour? And because I'm trying to build thousands of customers one day, so I'm gonna have an hour perimeter that I'm going to take everything within that. Or if you're going to stay smaller, then don't do that. Say like I'm going to stay more. I'm just going for higher profits because I don't want to expand too far. So you got to think through that. The equipment side, I wouldn't get any tank less than 200 gallons to start with. I prefer a 300 gallon. I mean, I've got a 400 gallon, but I'm just saying, if you get less than 200 gallon, you just go super cheap on the tank. It's just, as I do with those people at Graham Spray Equipment, they sell 200 gallon tank, and it's great. Okay, but if you get less than that, you're gonna end up having to fill up during the day. You go spray yards, have to come back, fill up, and go spray. That's a real pain. So I wouldn't want to do that at all. And you think about that piece of equipment. I mean, even like my tank, if it's like $12,000 or 11 or whatever it is, with the fancy piston pump and mechanical agitation and all, automatic hose reel and all the fancy stuff it's got, and they hook it up for me. You think, I mean, yeah, that's some money. I understand that, but if that tank will last you 20 years with basically running off a little Honda engine, the amount of money you make off of that tank is just crazy. I mean, so much more than you would make off a lawnmower. And I'm not anti lawnmowers by any means. I like lawnmowers. I'm just saying, if you spent $10,000 on a lawnmower, I feel confident you're not going to make near as much money with that as you are with the spray tank setup that you're going to spend. So, think about it as a business. Yeah, there's a little bit of money, and just think, the first year, in my opinion, when you're spraying, it is a little bit complicated on what to spray, what not to spray, when to spray. You need to find somebody, and we do. I've got training at lawncarelife.com. We're doing online training with a group of people now that's going great. I'm gonna probably do one-on-one coaching calls and group coaching calls, all this other stuff. But you find somebody that just tells you what you need to do and when to do it, and just take their word for it the first year. And as you begin doing it, you're going to begin learning what you're doing. It's almost like being immersed in a foreign country. I sort of halfway speak the language, but I don't even know what I'm saying half the time. Like you'll begin understanding it as you do it. And you'll spray the yard and you'll say, "Hey, this weed didn't die, and this weed didn't die." And then you got to go figure out what that weed's called and what I got to spray for that weed. So it takes some time and experience to be able to get into that and to understand what you're doing. So you just need to have somebody tell you what to do to start off with. And I would get a spray tank, because even if you use a ride-on spreader sprayer, you're still going to have to fill up your spray tank, and then get you a ride-on when you can. Again, depending on what kind of properties you're going to be doing. If you're going after these big properties and football fields and all that, you get you a Z spray or one of those big ones. They're awesome and they're great on not as good on hills. But if you're doing a lot of small properties, I've got the old Ground Logic. I've got what used to be the Xmark LTS, and now it's under their Z equipment brand. And LTS, I got that one. And so those, you don't have to pull a trailer. You put them on the back of your truck. Permagreen, Turfco, those are all, you can all put them on this rack on the back of your truck. I personally also like a flatbed truck versus a pickup truck. And you can get a pickup, it's fine. But I like working on flatbed for hauling fertilizer and mounting my backpack sprayer racks and things like that. All right. Okay. I'm thinking about rolling my small lawn. Is it effective at smoothing lawn? I'll say is I had this little small roller one time, and it wasn't worth anything, So I think you're going to have a pretty uh, decent roller to make it work. A heavy duty one. Do you think the Echo 9010 is overkill? Is that clarify on that one. Is that their new blower that huff and puff and blow your house down? Yeah, tell me what that is. Is that a blower? I'm not sure. I know they come out with the huge blowers. Um, all right. Have you ever heard of Skag hour meters resetting? Not the Tiger, just the cheap hour meters thing. No, I haven't heard of that. Yeah, if you go to buy a used lawnmower and it says it's got 23 hours on it, and it looks like it's got 2,300 hours on it, you'd be a little suspicious there. So I haven't heard that, but I'll tell you that I've heard hour meters going out and quit working a lot of times. But anyway, you ever think about franchises? I've had a couple people ask me about that. I guess I would need somebody with experience on how to do that, to put that together. I haven't thought about franchise. I mean, I have thought about it. I don't know how to pull that off at the moment, but I have thought about continuing to package together a deal, like for somebody that's wanting to start out in business. Like, how can we give them the ultimate package to help them get started, from a consulting to ongoing support to helping them brand their business, their marketing, their website. If we could put it all together, somebody, how to do that. So I don't know, but it's something that I've had people talk to me about, and I'm not opposed to it. I just don't know how to do it at the moment. Okay, this guy, he's saying he should have stayed. He's a 7-year seasoned sprayer and sales manager, finally transitioned to ownership. Okay, so he knows. I was answering his question a while ago in a real elementary basics as far as starting out. He's got experience already, so he probably already knows how to kill weeds and tank setups and all that. And again, I don't know if you're a manager, probably at a little bit of a larger company. The pricing is just all over the map. You probably know this, but I've seen some of the pricing structures of other companies. I just wouldn't be intimidated by that. I guess I'm a little bit higher than some people on some of my pricing, and sometimes I get it and I'm lower. Some of these anyway. So yeah, I mean, I think you just probably need. You understand the lawn side. You probably understand selling yards and things like that. So I think you just need to stay motivated and keep going and get out there and do it. I mean, most of the people I talk to, they're just getting into it and don't have a lot of experience. So you probably understand mixing chemicals and equipment, all that. But just think through your strategy. I mean, again, I still think it's important to ask, what do you want to come? Do you want to be a solo guy that has 300 customers, or do you want to be 3,000 customers? And how do you like managing people, or you don't want to manage people, and things like that? All right. How do you get more clients from Diego? Well, like I said, there's the long-term deals, websites, and all, branding your business over time, building relationships. Short-term, I mean, you can do like postcards, door hangers, all that, direct mail. I mean, none of that gets great results, honestly. Be active in your local communities. I mean, honestly, door knocking is about as quick as a way as anything. And you got to see if that's legal, if you feel comfortable doing it. I think too, just being out there on a Saturday in the spring when lots of people are working on their yard, just get out there and start working. I mean, if you got some customers, just say, hey, I'm going to come work on Saturday, and talk to the neighbor and their neighbor and their neighbor. If you see them out in the yard, just say, hey, we're taking care of this yard. Would you like us to quote mowing your yard? Or you see a yard in a neighborhood, pick a few neighborhoods, and you see every yard that looks terrible, it's not mowing, and mail them a little postcard with 3 sentences handwritten saying, hey, I'm so-and-so with such and such lawn care company, and we would love to take care of your lawn. If you don't have someone, if I can help, please give me a call at this phone number. And, again, that's hard work. It's like you just got to get established. It's very hard sometimes the first year, but once you get established, the business begins coming. But I would try to build relationships with people. If you're mowing lawns, get to know the weed control guys. If you're doing weed control, get to know the mowing guys and let them send you business. I have a ton of perennial ryegrass in February, and I sprayed it with glyphosate. I got heavy-handed. What is the best way to fill in the Bermuda bare spots? Okay. Now, this happens a lot of times. People get real excited about killing a weed, and they think if a little weed killer is good, a lot must be great. That's kind of the whole idea. Well, and you end up spraying, you delay the green up. Now, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't do a thing. If you got Bermuda grass, I just let it fill in on its own. It spreads so fast. And again, I know I've said this before, but I'm my yard. If I showed you my yard right now, I just tilled it up with a tractor, or my dad helped me do that about a week ago. And there is little sprigs of Bermuda over about 2 acres in the back of my property, and where I threw out 2 pallets of sod last year, and it barely got established before frost, uh, you know, sent it into dormancy. And this year, I mean, I'm just telling you, there is very little grass back there, and I don't think I'm gonna seed or plug or do anything. I'm just gonna. I mean, I end up with a 20-foot bald spot. I might put some plugs over there, but it's just crazy how fast it's gonna grow. So I wouldn't worry about it because you end up trying to put a piece of sod out there and it's not quite the same as what you had, and it sticks out, or you seed it, it's not gonna be the same as what you had. I mean, just let it fill in. It goes fast. I mean, if you want to rake the soil up, take a metal rake and kind of break the soil up a little bit, and of course fertilize, and just let it fill in. All right, Dillon says, thanks for help answering questions. Have a great day. Yeah, I hope the information's helpful, and if you got more questions, bring them on here. I'm kind of running to the end of the line here, so this is a good chance to get in if you do have a question. But yeah, I like doing it. I thought I'll try on a Saturday morning and just see what kind of reaction I get. When passing out postcards for mowing, do you normally get calls when the grass is growing again, or have people scheduled ahead of time? That's a great question, Zach. And I used to try to get ahead of the game. I said, you know what? Everybody's putting out their postcards in March and April and all that. I'm going to get out there in February and do it. Most people, honestly, are just spur of the moment kind of people. I mean, you get every once in a while, you get somebody who was unhappy with who they had last year, and so they're doing their research and they want to call you in February to get ahead of the game. But let's face it, a lot of people procrastinate, and when they want their grass cut, they call you the day they want it cut. Can you get me in today? And so if you're out there, that's what I'm saying. If on a Saturday, if you're out there and it's like people are mowing, they're wanting the grass done today. They're out in the yard. That's your best time, because people just want, who can get to me now? It kind of, think of it as like you got a plumbing leak in your house. It's not something you can fix yourself, and water's pouring out. Are you like, well, let me see, I want to check out their reviews and I want to talk to my neighbor? No, you just like, who can get here the fastest to fix my plumbing leak right now? And that's who I'm hiring. And it's not quite that extreme in the lawn business, but it's not a whole lot different. People just make spur of the moment decisions. Now, again, your reputation helps you, and over time you get referrals. And if you do a good job, I'm not saying it's always like that, but when you're just picking up people in the spring, I just moved in town, I just need somebody to cut my grass. They're not, most people are honestly just not doing a lot of research. Now, again, you're going to get those. You want to be the one that they refer, and you want to have the reputation. But a lot of people, it's just a real quick decision. Battling onions and garlic. Tried Pro Plugger, but filling in the holes afterwards was a pain. What do you recommend? We use Blindside on those, and it works great. Metsulfuron is in Blindside, but you can just get straight Metsulfuron. It works great too. But the Blindside, if you can do it a little bit earlier, like when you first start seeing the onions in November, and do it in December, whenever, then by this time of year that they're really starting to wilt. And the idea is when you mow them, most of them don't come back, and then the following year most of them don't come back. But if you can try it now. I had a zillion onions in my yard when we moved in our current house a couple years ago. I sprayed it, and now I have very few. So it's not going to knock them out like overnight, but the idea is that next year you have significantly less. All right, the 9010 is their newest backpack blower. Well, I'll say this: they come out with new backpack blowers. Seem like all the time. It seems to me to be a competition more than practical. When I was mowing lawns, I like Red Max blowers. Okay, I'm not saying Echoes and Steels and the other Shindaos and all of them are not good. I like the Red Max, and I think they're awesome. Now I use Husqvarna handheld, like weed eaters and string trimmers and all that stuff. Anyway, the Red Max, they have the 8500. They might have a bigger one now. I don't keep up with as much, but I use like the shoot, I had the 7,500, or at the time might have been a 7,000, or I forget what they called it. And then I had like 6,500, and then I had like the 5,500, and I used that 5,500, which was like their fourth biggest one. That was my normal blower that I had. Now, if you're out there doing a leaf cleanup, of course, or blowing off Walmart's parking lot, that's not ideal. But like for there's a give and take between, do I want to feel like I've got a grown man on my back, versus just anyway. I just found that medium sized one to be fine when I'm blowing off some grass clippings off somebody's sidewalk and driveway. Again, if you're doing leaf cleanups and big stuff, the power definitely makes a big difference. So I'm not anti big blower. And I hadn't seen that blow. I'm sure it's cool, but I think it's to me, they all the companies want to have on there. We make the biggest, most powerful blower. So I'm sure it's an awesome blower. I hadn't used it, but I personally like the medium sized ones for just normal lawn maintenance. Let's see. I thought I'd let you speak on how important referrals are to bringing more clients. Yeah. Referrals. So for me, I said that the top two ways I get customers. My website, I rank well on Google in my local area. I get a lot of customers from my website. Those are awesome because they're moving in town a lot of times. They don't know anybody. They Google it. I've got good reviews. They call me. It's awesome. But the other way is the mowing companies send me the referrals. So that to me, when I think about referrals, like get those guys that are mowing lawns to send you the weed control company customers. If you're doing weed control, get the mowing guys to send you customers. That's great. But yeah, your actual customers too. So if you want to think about whether you should have some kind of program in place. So oftentimes I give them like a $50 referral discount. And I might even, sometimes I tell them that, sometimes I just do it, and they're like, wow, that's cool. And I don't have a lot of customers that send me referrals, and a lot of them don't even care about the $50. But you just go out there and be a respectable business. And I've got a few customers, they love the referrals. And like you tell, they're like intentionally trying to get me more customers. But most of them, it's just a deal like, hey, Jason's company does a great job. Just use them, and they're not worried about $50 or anything. They just think I do great, and they want their neighbor to use me as well. So, being sometimes just being a respectable business, and the customers will take care of themselves. And I'd say this: I've kind of went back and forth on this a little bit. Should you, with your customers, sort of keep it professional, and I just take care of the mowing or the spraying, and I don't necessarily need to meet you. You just pay me your bill when it comes, and if you need anything, call me. Or do you try to kind of get to know them a little bit? I'm in a fairly small town, and I've found that again, I don't want to stop and talk 20 minutes with every customer on every yard. That really hurts my productivity. But if I can get to know them a little bit, if they come out and talk to me, I'm going to be friendly. If I know something about them, maybe they had an illness or a death in the family, maybe there's somebody's lost their job. Is there a way I can help? Is just being a reasonable human being when you're out talking to them, it helps, and they want to do business with you because of that, and they want to refer you because of that. So referrals are huge, and the thing is, when you get a referral from a mowing company or from often one of your existing customers, it's almost as good as it's in the bag, man. I mean, you hardly ever lose those customers. You hardly ever not get them. What I'm saying, they say, hey, I want to use you because you were referred to me by my mowing guy who I trust, or by my neighbor who I trust. So you go, and I don't jack the price up because of that, but I mean, I'm pretty much going to get that customer almost every time. Where if somebody just calls me out of the blue off the internet, I mean, they may be calling 4 or 5 companies. I got to compete on that level, and I still want to compete and get those as well. But your closing rate is awesome when it's a referral. Thank you so much for your time and advice. I've been enjoying your videos. They're helpful. Hey, I'm going to try to get a cool season person on here where we can talk cool season grasses, but thank you for saying that. I wish and it's something personally I want to grow in, is learning more about cool season grasses where I can be more knowledgeable and helpful in those areas. Is sand adequate for top dressing Bermuda lawn, or is topsoil necessary? So what I tell people is I would go a mixture of the two. The problem with sand is while it will compact and all that and make it smooth, it has virtually no nutrients in there. It's just sand. Okay, it's just like a rice cake for breakfast. It's like ugh. Um, but if you put some topsoil in there, then you got some nutrients. So, and I would go heavier on the topsoil. So maybe like a um, 2/3 topsoil, 1/3 sand. I know that may be a little bit of a pain to mix. I'm not, depending on how big of an area you're going to be doing. And one of those top dressing machines are awesome. But if you're just doing it by hand and you got to mix it in a wheelbarrow and all that, but yeah, I would go heavier on the topsoil and put a little bit of sand in there as well. I'm going to try to do a little bit of that in my yard. I'm working on my house is being added onto at the moment. Hopefully, going to be done sooner than later. I look forward to that. And my yard is lumpy where they've been driving big equipment in there and put a new septic system in and all kinds of stuff. So, and there's some sand left over from some of the work they've done. I think I'm going to try to do a little leveling on my yard, and I'm going to probably go 2/3 topsoil, 1/3 sand. And I just ordered like $700 and some worth of topsoil the other day to smooth out the yard, because some of the where they dug up the rocks, and I mean, it's some of the worst dirt. It's got bricks mixed in with. I said, no, I can't have that on my yard. So, all right, what do you use to control Lespedeza centipede and Bahia? I'm finding most herbicides cannot be used on both. What Bahia is being too sensitive, and I've had luck with atrazine on centipede. Yeah, I mean, atrazine, we use that, early in the year when it's still dormant. When it turns green, don't spray it during transition, but when it turns green, change up again is a fantastic product for centipede lawns. Now, I'm assuming you're saying a Bahia lawn, or you're trying to get rid of the Bahia. If you can clarify that, because we try to get rid of Bahia with metsulfuron. We'll get rid of it, or at least make it stop growing and putting up those seed heads. I'd be using some growth regulator on my Bahia to try to keep it from putting up the seed head. I don't know. It just puts up a seed head so fast I can't imagine having a yard. But if it's a Bahia lawn, you'd have to check and see if centipede is labeled for Bahia grass. I don't think centipede kills Bahia grass. So I'm sorry, change up kills Bahia grass, but check to see if it's on the label. But change up is great on Lespedeza in a centipede lawn. It's not that expensive. I mean, if you buy a 2.5 gallon jug, it might be $200 some. But I mean, when you do the application, it's not expensive. Will hybrid Bermudas eventually overtake common Bermuda? Great question, Dillon. I don't think so. I don't know. We'll see. Here's what happened in my yard. So I moved into this house 2 years ago. I've documented this on YouTube. The yard had nothing done to it ever. It was built in 1968. Just nasty as ever, nastiest yard of all time, just about. So I just want to start off. I go spray the thing with glyphosate in the winter, try to get rid of all the Dallisgrass and everything. What am I left with? Well, I got a bunch of common Bermuda out there, and I just thinking, I don't want to live here for the next 30 years with a common Bermuda yard. So what I did, I tried to just kill the whole yard. I sprayed it probably 2 or 3 times with glyphosate. I'm just trying to kill it. Well, it's hard to kill Bermuda, even when you're trying to kill Bermuda. And then I went back and plugged it with 419 hybrid Bermuda, okay? Because I didn't get rid of it all, the common Bermuda. It's just hard to kill. So I've got little patches there. So what I'm doing, now it's mostly hybrid Bermuda, and in the back of my property, it was all trees, and we had the land cleared and graded. And there shouldn't hardly be any common Bermuda back there, but there is a little bit in the front yard. I'm mowing it an inch and a half, inch and a half, inch and a half. I'm hoping just mowing it tight and low, over and over and over again will stress out the common Bermuda more than the hybrid Bermuda. But to answer your question, I'm not optimistic. So that's why I tried to just kill all mine, but I still got little patches. And you can't tell a huge difference when you're looking at it, but I can see it in there, and that kind of annoys me a little bit. Any experience with Poa trivialis? I think that's how you say that. I'm afraid I've got some in a fescue lawn. Looks tough to control. I've seen. I don't think we have that weed here. I'll just be honest. I've seen people talk about it, and I don't know how to kill it. when we deal with like grassy weed, like for us in the South, when we have a grassy weed like a fescue or ryegrass or poannual or something like that, like we're using products to kill the grassy weed that are not labeled oftentimes for cool season grasses, because we're basically trying to kill the cool season grass out of our Bermuda. So killing a cool season, grassy poa weed out of a cool season lawn, to me, I don't know. There may be a product out there. I just, like I said, we're trying to kill a cool season out of warm season, so it's just kind of a different ball game. All right, after aerating, can I overseed and fertilize at the same time? Well, I mean, you think about it. What's the point of I don't know if you're just putting your seed out, and we was talking about this the other day. The fertilizer is not going to do a whole lot. It may help your existing part of your lawn, but it's not going to do a whole lot for the new seed, because it hasn't even germinated yet. So I mean, if it was me, I mean, I guess you can. I would probably, and you again talk to somebody that's like a cool season expert maybe, but to me it makes more sense to put the seed out, let it start growing, and once it starts growing, then put some fertilizer out so you can actually benefit from the fertilizer, versus the fertilizer already using all its nutrients before that new grass has really gotten established. So that's my initial thought on it. All right, got about 5 more minutes on here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. So bring up your last few questions. Got time for a few more, and really appreciate you guys being on here. And I think I'm gonna probably be on here Monday night as well if you like the Q&As. Monday night has been my normal live stream time. I've just started doing this about 6 weeks ago, but I kind of enjoy it. Sometimes I have guests, sometimes it's just me. If there's something in particular you want me to talk about or have a guest on, another YouTuber, I can reach out to the other YouTubers and have them on. Enjoy doing that. Like I said, last week we had Sean and Savannah Spencer on there, TQ, and talked to them for a while. We've talked about fertilizers and things with my buddy James is a guy that I had on here one time, and had another big YouTuber. He's actually in the plumbing business, and had him on there. So fastest technique to blow off a driveway. You know what? I mean, I just use a backpack blower. I mean, but you see people, and just use common sense. If you're mowing out there in the morning, don't blow all that wet grass. Don't go out on the driveway and make big old grassy tire marks either. That just looks terrible. But it amazes me seeing lawn care companies that can't even blow off the driveway right. I mean, you get on there on the porch, and I guess they're in a hurry. They just don't care. But you start blowing, and the grass clippings just go everywhere, and they come landing back down on the porch, and they're already gone and blowing off. I'm like, it takes a little bit of time and effort just to make sure you got the clippings off. But just get, again, I was talking about this a few minutes ago, whether you're on here or not, and have a a medium-sized blower is all I don't use the big ones, but the big blowers are definitely faster. But I just go to the porch and go to the back patio and work my way back to the truck, and and of course, if you got grass clippings out in the street, please blow them back in the yard. Don't just leave them out in the street. I mean, you talk about unprofessional. That just looks terrible. All right. Thank you, Jason. You're awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate you participating today. Appreciate you for this last question. What software do you prefer your lawn system? I'm running mine with Yardbook. I think Yardbook is great, user-friendly, not expensive, and has lots of features on it. And I use the app a lot. I use it mostly for billing. So it's online credit card processing, card on file, scheduling, all kind of stuff. I measure my yards with Yardbook a lot of times. So I've had great experience with them. A very bad poet. My neighbors, they don't treat for anything. Well, fortunately for you, most likely the poet's going to be going away soon. It's going to get hot, and they just let it die out. And sometimes people say, hey, my neighbor has tons of weeds. I don't have any weeds. All my neighbor's weeds are coming over to my yard. What should I do? Well, don't have a bad relationship with your neighbor over it. But oftentimes, and you can see this on our yards, when you see the neighbor is totally weeds and yours, it's almost like you can draw a straight line where that pre-emergent. I mean, it's amazing how well these pre-emergents work. So the idea of, oh, somebody mowed their lawn, now they came mowed my lawn, they brought the grass seeds, the weed seeds with them, or my neighbor's weeds are blowing over mine. I mean, yeah, I get it. It would be better if everybody didn't have any weeds. But the pre-emergents are unbelievable. And like I said, you can draw a line and say no weeds on this side and tons of weeds on this side. That's where the pre-emergent stops. So, don't think just because your neighbor has a yard that you can't use it. Celsius is good for POA also. Yeah, there's a lot of products for POA. I'll say it's when you spray it early, like put your spectacle out, try to prevent, get most of it with a pre-emergent as you can. But then when you start seeing it in January, if you spray it with Revolver or Negate or Celsius or Certainty or whatever, it's not going to be fast most of the time. It's very slow, and it might start turning yellow, but it'll make it stop growing, and where it doesn't become that huge clump that you're seeing this time of year. So yeah, just get in there early when you start seeing it and knock it out. So prodiamine, is that a question? I'm not sure. Prodiamine is our pre-emergent we use oftentimes early in the year. It's excellent on crabgrass, very cost-effective product. You can also use it in the fall. Not as good on POA as Spectacle Flow. All right, Bassmaster 1953. I'm sitting here watching. I'm at the lake today, and it was pouring down rain. And I'm thinking it must be a fish tournament because these guys are out here in a thunderstorm fishing and driving the boats. So, but it quit raining. So, experiment with edgeless PGR, save edge and blow, and hope to save some money and time. Yeah, I haven't used that one, so I'd be interested to hear how it goes. I'm using Podium, and yeah, I've thought about that. Like, man, if you were mowing a cemetery, I mean, I just think it's almost a no-brainer. All the edging, at least, if you don't want to spray the whole yard, at least spraying around the sidewalks and all that would makes a lot of sense to me, using these growth regulators. So I'm definitely planning to use mine a lot more this year, and I'm going to try to start putting it out with my ride-on instead of my sprayer. But I want to use, if you've used Bassmaster, have you used any of the ones for shrubs? I haven't used the ones that work great for shrubs yet, because I try to plant shrubs that don't need trimmed a lot. But if you had Elaeagnus or holly bushes or something like that needs trimmed all the time, I'd be using that. Okay, just check the change up label and it's okay to put on Bahalons. Yeah, well, change up is a definite thumbs up for Lespedeza. So hope that works out for you. And like I said, you don't have to use, when I'm mixing it in a backpack or something, I just put like 1 ounce in a gallon of water, a little bit of surfactant. On a ride-on, I go super low, especially if it gets hot weather. I'm using like 10 ounces per acre. You can use a little bit more, but I mean, I'd rather be safer on the lawn and it take a little longer to die than going at a higher rate and risk causing damage to lawn. But I know change up, centipede is very tolerant of change up, and it's excellent. It also works great on like spurge, works great on Virginia buttonweed. So if I had a centipede lawn and I think if I was a homeowner wanting to take care of it myself, I would just get some change up. Okay, you might buy, I don't know if it comes in a 32-ounce bottle or not, but it definitely comes in a 2.5-gallon jug, and that might be enough to last you the rest of your life. Okay, but you'd have a great product that you could use on a lot of weeds. And if you got your sage product or something, if you got nut sage, mix them together, 1 ounce of change up, and you can walk around and spray your Lespedeza, spray your Virginia buttweed. That's not going to knock out your grassy weeds. Okay, if you get some grassy weeds, that's a whole different ball game. Get some certainty maybe, and mix your certainty with your change up. Try that way. All right. Well, that wraps it up for today. Unless somebody's got one last question, type it up real quick. But I'm going to try to be back on here Monday night and continue to do these things, continue to get some guests lined up. If you guys have topics you want to talk about ahead of time, if you'll let me know, that's great. Okay, he's saying the what was the name of the one? Edgeless. Okay, it reduces lateral growth along the edge, so podium's more for height reduction. Okay, so I would clarify on that. I didn't know that, but yeah, that makes sense. So you wouldn't want to use podium. I don't know if in theory it's supposed to make deeper roots and denser turf and all that. To be honest, I don't see a lot of, thickening. I can't tell a visual difference other than it quits growing vertically as much. But yeah, that makes sense. I might have to try some of that myself because I'd like to see what that does around. And if you were doing neighborhoods or stuff with islands, or I mean, there's a lot of uses for that. If it could reduce your edging, where maybe you wouldn't have to edge, but every other time, or it just made the edging go a lot faster, I could see where that would be awesome. So, anybody got one last question before we wrap up here? If not, it's been enjoyable. I appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy your Saturday. I'm going to go to this little master gardener plant sale in my area. We'll see how that goes. I'll see if they got some. My house is, like I said, been renovating, and half my landscaping I did, which I'm not a professional landscaper, but I changed some stuff up. The other half is what we've added on to the house. So I've got to re-landscape the other half of the yard, and so we'll see, how well that works. Anyway, looking forward to money. Appreciate that. And he says most of Bermuda. Yeah, I mean Bermuda. You know how fast that stuff spread. I wonder if it would work too. I'm assuming it would. Sometimes we have these. I see homeowners that got Bermuda or Zoysla, and they don't have any kind of border, or even if they do have a border, sometimes the Bermuda gets under it or over it or through it, or it starts getting into the flower bed. So maybe even spraying along that border of it, where there was no actual physical border between the flower bed and the yard, could probably keep that Bermuda from running in there as fast. Of course, you want to edge it with your string trimmer. Don't work too hard. I'm not doing any yards today, but I tell you what, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I hope I'm gonna be out there riding on my fertilizer spreader, throwing out that fertilizer and trying to get my yards done. I want to. First half of the year is busier for me than the second half of the year, because the second half of the year I do 7 applications. So my first half of the year I've got 4 applications. The second half of the year I've got 3 applications, and it runs year round. Plus, the first half of the year I get so many new customers. I'm always giving quotes and all that. So in my mind, if I make it through, and you say, well, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you want to do 8 and just keep it even? There would be some advantages to that, no doubt. But I'm thinking, almost in the lawn care business, I think you have to kind of plan time off, or it'll just never end, and where I'm doing weed control in the South, it runs year round. So I can't just say, well, I'm going to be off in the winter time. That's not an option for me anymore. I'm busy in the winter time. January, super busy trying to get the yards done when it's warm enough. But what I can do is, because I'm doing only 3 applications the second half of the year, I might have two weeks off between rounds. What would it be? Rounds 5 and round 6, and between round 6 and round 7, and even between in round 7, maybe I'm done before Christmas, and I can have Christmas to New Year's off. So, and if you had employees, that would be a way that you could say, hey, here's 2 weeks vacation in this second half of the year. Now, first half of the year, there's no vacation. I need you all the time. I need me out there working. Everybody's working. So anyway, I like the 7. I like how it falls on the schedule. And for me personally, and just mentally and everything, when I get through the end of June and I've got my fertilizer out for everybody, I use that slow release after June. I don't really have to fertilize anymore. And then it's just, I breathe easier. I don't get as many calls. I don't get many complaints. I don't get many new customers. I'm just, man, I got 3 more apps for the rest of the year, and I'm going to take a little time off. Now, the fishing's not as good then. Fishing's good now when everybody's so busy. But, life's not just about fishing. What should I put on my Bermuda yard now in Atlanta? Well, if you haven't, put any kind of pre-emergent now, you're going to be destroyed with crabgrass this summer. So I hope you put some prodiamine out before now, like January, February. Here comes the bass boat. I told you having a bass tournament. Maybe it's just hobby fishermen. Anyway, what should you put on it now? So if you haven't put your prodiamine out, then you're going to want to use something like Dimension, which will hopefully kill the baby crabgrass, because I'm pretty sure it's already germinated here early April in Atlanta. But what I'm doing is I'm using what's it called? Drive Accelerate or something like that. It's like got quinclorac in it. So I'm going to go into post-emergent for crabgrass, along with prodiamine to help, future germination, stuff like that. And try, because like I said, you could use dimension and try to get it that way. But next year, you definitely want to get your prodiamine out like January or February, where you don't have to worry about that. If you did that, you already put a pre-emergent out, then you can fertilize now if you want to. I mean, if we're still getting some cool nights, you don't know if it's going to be 80 degrees next week. You fertilize, it's probably going to do great. If it's going to be in the 60s, you may not get great results. So you might want to give it a couple weeks and fertilize. And then by May, I mean, you can definitely start fertilizing then, because we're warming up. So I would just start mowing it. I mean, if you're having any kind of weed problems, I don't know what weeds you're having. When we're putting out their pre-emergent, I'm mixing a product called Triplet with it. It's a 3-way product. Get rid of a lot of your broadleaf weeds. You may end up with some American burn weeds, real common, coming up soon if you don't have it already. But just about anything will kill it. It's just hard, so hope that helps. If you got more specific questions, you let me know. And then healthy centipede lawn. Centipede, a lot of my competitors don't mess with centipede, and it can be a little bit tricky, especially if you got like a situation where it's still in transition. You don't want to be out there spraying your centipede. So that's one tip. Don't spray it like March and April if it's not fully green. Spray it if it's like January, February, when it's pretty much all dormant. You can use atrazine. You want to be careful. I use a little bit of prodiamine during that time of year, but if you don't want to use any, that's fine. Don't spray herbicides on it other than maybe atrazine in the springtime. And then when it starts turning green, like now, ours is pretty much fully green. I've had several people ask me about a product. I use Change Up a lot on centipede yards. Works great for like Lespedeza and Virginia buttonweed. And centipede grass tolerates it very well. And then you start fertilizing. You don't want to use, I think the rule of thumb is no more than 2 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per calendar year on your centipede yard. The other thing I think is that people miss on their centipede a lot of times. I see people and they're just not mowing it correctly. So I would mow it an inch to inch and a half. I mean, and just even if right now, let's say you let it get up to 3 inches or whatever, just mow it low. I mean, yeah, you may damage it a little bit, and then that's fine if you let it get off. It'll recover, and then mow it low, and then just keep it low. So mow it once a week, and just mow it an inch tall, inch and a half, and keep it low. And the centipede yards that I see, some of them have. There's one in the neighborhood I grew up in where my parents still live. I don't think he does anything to it from a weed control fertilizer standpoint, but he mows it often and he mows it low, and his centipede looks great. Okay, so I think mowing it low makes a huge difference. All right, he's agreed there. I think he's talking about keeping it from growing up into the flower beds. And Bermuda's awful, get running up in your Zoysla. You can't hardly hand pull it out of there. It gets up in there. It's a pain. And customers like, hey, what can you do about that? I said, you need to get in there and pull it out. I mean, you messed up. You need somebody to keep it mowed. And with concrete and bed edges. So yeah, I need to try some of that, the cutlass. I'd like to hear how that works for you. Waiting for a week in 80s. I'm assuming you're talking about the growth regulator or the fertilizer on waiting until it gets up in the 80s. Probably either one. When it gets warmer, fertilizer and the growth regulator. I'm probably not even going to worry about growth regulator, honestly, till May or even late May. I mean, I got a big yard, several acres, so I'm not going to just go out there. I don't mind mowing it, but when it gets where I've got to mow it like every 4 days to keep it at an inch and a half, I'm like, okay, I'm breaking out the growth regulator now, and I'm going to keep it low. You guys are great. Appreciate everybody watching, and hope you have a great day. And I will plan to be on here Monday night. I'm working on lining up some guests for the future episodes, and just enjoyed being with you this morning. Enjoy your Saturday. For those of you watching on replay, hope this information is helpful. Would encourage you to subscribe if you hadn't done so. If you're in the lawn business, you can go to LawnCareLife.com. There's resources over there where we help people get started and have success in the lawn care business. Talk to you later. Bye.